Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Office of Tax Appeals. As a reminder, this hearing will be live streamed today and will be available to the general public on OTA's YouTube channel. My name is Erica Parker, and this is the appeal of G. Haas. Today's hearing is being reported by our stenographer, Ms. Alonso, who is reporting this hearing verbatim. To ensure that we have an accurate record, we ask that everyone speaks clearly and loudly. And when you speak, please unmute your microphone and remute the microphone when you are finished speaking so that we avoid any background noise or feedback. Please state your name before you speak and speak one at a time. That way we avoid speaking over one another. If needed, Ms. Alonso or any panel member may interrupt to ensure that we have a proper transcription. After the hearing, the official hearing transcript will be available on the Office of Tax Appeals website. The hearing transcript and the video recording of the hearing are part of the public record. Please keep that in mind during your presentations and avoid sharing any sensitive information. As a reminder, the Office of Tax Appeals is not a court. It is an independent appeals body that is staffed by tax experts and is independent of the state's taxing agencies. While the Office of Tax Appeals is not a court, we must nevertheless follow certain guidelines to ensure that we establish a proper record on which a decision is based and to conduct an orderly hearing. Today, each party will have the opportunity to be heard, so please wait for your turn to present your side. Also, I may interrupt the hearing if we get out of order or become counterproductive in order to keep us on track and to create a clean and efficient hearing record as part of my role as the lead panel member. With that, are there any questions before we go on the record from any of the parties? Okay, seeing none. Judges, are you ready to go on the record? Okay. We are opening the record for the appeal of G. Haas, case number 2204-10192. This matter is being held virtually before the Office of Tax Appeals. Today's date is Thursday, August 21st, 2025, and the time is approximately 1 p.m. My name is Erica Parker. I am a hearing officer with the Office of Tax Appeals, and I will be leading today's hearing. On today's panel, we also have administrative law judges Amanda Vasig and Sarah Hosey. While I am the lead for the purpose of conducting this hearing, all three panel members are co-equal participants in deliberating and determining the outcome of the appeal. I'd like to have the parties introduce themselves for the record, starting with appellant. Please unmute your mic and introduce yourself.
David Adams. I am a CPA in Los Angeles and also the tax preparer for Gene Haas.
Thank you, Mr. Adams. And who else do you have present with you today?
We have John Hill, who is a senior accountant in our office, and Betty Lou, who is a director in our office, and both of them have worked extensively on the client, our client, the taxpayer. And I'll let them introduce themselves a little clearly. John?
Hi, John Hill, CPA with the taxpayer for several years now.
Thank you.
Back to you.
Okay, just so you are aware, if you do speak again, Ms. Lou, you're here. It was a little difficult to hear you introduce yourself.
We can't hear you, Betty.
Can you hear me? Hello?
Yes, we can hear you now. It's a little low, but we can hear you.
Yes, my name is Betty Pim. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Lou. And respondent Franchise Tax Board, can you please introduce yourself?
Hi, my name is Topher Tuttle, representing Respondent Franchise Tax Board.
Alyssa Pinnerbossi, also representing the Franchise Tax Board.
Okay, thank you. As stated in the minutes and orders, the issue to be decided in this appeal is whether appellant has established reasonable cause to abate the mandatory e-pay penalty. Appellant, do you agree that that is the issue to be discussed?
Yes, we do.
Thank you. And FTB, do you also agree?
Yes.
Perfect. Thank you. Let's discuss the admission of evidence and exhibits. Appellant has submitted exhibits A through D, which have been relabeled as exhibits 1 through 4. FTB did not object to the admissibility of these exhibits. Therefore, appellant's exhibits 1 through 4 are admitted into the evidence. FTB has submitted exhibits A through L, and appellant did not object to the admissibility of these exhibits. Therefore, FTB's exhibits A through L are admitted into the evidence. And it doesn't appear that we received any additional evidence from either party. Is that correct?
Correct.
Correct.
Okay, perfect. Mr. Adams, you did indicate that during the pre-hearing conference that you will be calling John Hill to provide witness testimony, and FTB did not object to Mr. Hill's testimony. Does Mr. Hill still plan to provide witness testimony today?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Then before your presentation begins, we'll be sure to swear him in so that we can include his testimony.
Yeah, and he will be starting our presentation when we make our presentation as well. So,
Okay. Sounds good. Before we begin with the presentations, does either party have any question at this time?
No.
No.
Okay. Thank you. Mr. Hill, I'm going to go ahead and swear you in. Can you please raise your right hand? Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. Adams or Mr. Hill, you may begin whenever you are ready, and you have 15 minutes for your presentation. The time now is 1:07.
Perfect. Good afternoon. My name is John Hill, and I was directly involved in handling taxpayers' 2021 California tax payment that's now at issue. I'd like to explain exactly what happened, what I did personally, and what I was told by the Franchise Tax Board. We'll be establishing that reasonable cause exists for the taxpayer's first failure to make electronic tax payments since being required to make them. The taxpayer has been making California tax payments electronically since 2009, when they were first required to. It's something that we, his advisors, his office, and the taxpayer are all very familiar with. To my knowledge, we've never failed to not follow that rule before. So it would take something unusual for us to make a payment in any other way. In 2021, we were dealing with a new and complicated tax situation. 2 new laws were overlapping in ways that created a lot of uncertainty around the taxpayer. First, the new pass-through entity tax, or PTET, which had just been signed into law in July 2021. This, with taxpayers' other credits, would have covered 100% of their 2021 California tax liability. And number 2, AB 85, which limited business credits for 2021 because of the COVID-19 budget measures. These changes together made it unusually difficult to figure out the best way to apply the taxpayer's 2020 tax overpayment. Due to the first item, we requested that the taxpayer's overpayment be refunded to him. The taxpayer has maintained large overpayments with California to avoid any underpayment interest, but since his liability would have been covered by a PTET and his other credits, he could finally have had that overpayment refunded. However, the multitude of news releases and last-minute guidance from the Franchise Tax Board, including requesting taxpayers mail in PTET payments due to web pay issues in November and December of 2021, presented issues. The FTB has had their own issues implementing PTET and processing electronic payments during this period. So with an abundance of caution, we quickly determined that too much of the taxpayer's 2020 overpayment was refunded, and the taxpayer may have some underpayment exposure. In the end, the taxpayer did not have any 2021 underpayment, and this issue was moot. But again, out of an abundance of caution, we acted, and the taxpayer ultimately obtained no benefit from this. Similarly, the FTB incurred no harm. As I will testify, we confirmed our strategy with the FTB in advance multiple times and relied on their confirmation of our process in order to implement this action. This begins my specific witness testimony. On October 2021, the FTB direct deposited the taxpayer's 2020 tax overpayment into his bank account. After reviewing the recent legislation, we decided that too much of this prior payment was refunded and could subject them to underpayment penalty. It was determined that a portion of that refund should have been applied as a carry forward towards his 2021 taxes. It would also have been acceptable to have the entire 2020 overpayment applied to 2021 in the case of a paper check from the Franchise Tax Board. The problem was, since the refund had been direct deposited, we did not have a physical check to send back. So on December 15th, 2021, I called the FTB to explain the situation. The first agent on the general helpline was not familiar. As such, I reached out to the tax practitioner hotline, a more advanced unit, to obtain specific guidance. I explained the situation to the agents, that the refund was already in the bank and that we wanted to send the money back so it could be applied to the next tax year. If we had a physical check, we would have mailed it back. Per our experience, this can be done via a commonplace but unofficial procedure that the agents acknowledged and agreed with. In light of these facts, the first agent agreed that we could accomplish this goal by mailing our own check as a facsimile FTB check, and that we should attach a letter explaining two things: how we wanted the payment applied and why we were sending the check. The agent even gave me the address for the returns warrant desk where we would send a Franchise Tax Board check back. Due to the awareness of our team and the client of the e-payment mandate, I called back a third time on the same day to confirm this process with another agent. This third agent I talked to agreed with this process, sending a check back with a letter of direction. December 17th, I called back again, the fourth time, at the specific direction of the client to make absolutely sure about the handling of this return payment. The client's concern with a non-electronic payment is contemporaneously evidenced in our Exhibit 1. I again explained the situation to the agent, that the taxpayer was normally required to pay electronically, and asked if returning the refund by check would cause an e-pay penalty. The agent told me it was not, because with our letter of instruction, we were returning a refund, not making a regular estimated tax payment. The agent also mentioned that other taxpayers had been running into payment issues that year and confirmed that we should include that letter of instruction with the check. Relying on those instructions, we prepared the check with the required letter and sent it by certified mail on December 21st, 2021. Made sure the letter clearly stated this was part of the 2020 refund being reapplied to 2020, so it could be applied to 2021 as a credit carried forward. When the penalty notice was issued by the Franchise Tax Board, I called the FTB's complex accounts resolution team and worked with the agent Paige. I explained the situation, the advice given to us, and our rationale for seeking this advice. She agreed and stated that she thought the penalty was unreasonable, that we had reasonable cause for making this payment this way, and that she would request payment on our behalf over the phone. She even placed a hold on the account to prevent more collection letters while the abatement worked through the system. On March 3rd, 2022, I spoke with Paige again, who had submitted our penalty abatement, and she confirmed the abatement was approved with the FTB. However, the abatement was still working in the system, and she recommended to follow up in a few weeks. On March 24th, 2022, I reached back out to Paige at the Complex Accounts Resolution Team, who requested I fax in another letter so she could resubmit the reasonable cause abatement, as it seemed it was rejected at some even higher level of review. As with that, I submitted the facts in the letter, which is included as the FTB's Exhibit F. I have had other calls with the Franchise Tax Board to resolve this issue as evidence in the FTB's response. However, these extracted responses on our side highlight the guidance I received from the FTB's specialized teams. This includes my specific witness testimony. In summary, as the FTB acknowledges in their opening brief, they don't have an official procedure to allow an issued refund to be returned. But in our experience, and confirmed by the FTB refund checks can be returned and are not subject to payment penalty. Returning a refund check was the only way to accomplish what we wanted to do. And in essence, the taxpayers being penalized for having their refund directly deposited. As evidenced by my witness testimony, we contacted the FTB multiple times to confirm our plan. As evidenced by our correspondence with the taxpayers' advisors, we were both specifically aware of the e-pay requirement. The taxpayer has had to e-pay for over 16 years and has never had a prior issue before. The FTB has struggled to implement 2021 tax law changes and had web pay issues in December when we were trying to resolve this. The FTB defines the establishment of reasonable cause as showing the issue occurred despite the exercise of ordinary business care and prudence. And with our actions, it is clear that extraordinary business care and prudence was applied to the situation, and its penalty should be abated due to reasonable cause. And that's all from me.
Yeah. And do you need to swear me in if I make any statements on
Only
this?
if you plan on giving witness testimony, but if you're doing oral presentation, we do not have to swear you in.
Okay. And just basically wanted to point out that the client, we exercised as the client's advisors due care in reasonable care in asserting through the FTB that this was the proper procedure in order to accomplish what we wanted to accomplish. And we're given that assurance verbally from the FTB, but the client was relying on us and we were relying on what we got from the FTB. But I think the client, in addition to coming back to us and saying they wanted to make sure even a fourth time to contact the FTB and make sure this was the proper procedure, knowing the electronic filing requirements, that this was the proper procedure. The client was relying on a tax advisor in order to do this, which I think gives them another reason for reasonable cause in this case. And I think at this point that we rest our initial testimony.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Hill and Mr. Adams. At this time, I'd like to ask FTB, do you have any questions for Mr. Hill regarding his testimony?
Sure, we have one question. Mr. Hill, your testimony pretty much lined up with the exhibit number 4 that provided by appellants. I did notice that your testimony, you mentioned 3 calls on December 15th, 2021, but the log only reflects 2 of those calls. Can you explain why one of them is missing?
Our log or?
So Exhibit 4, which was submitted originally as Exhibit D to the appellant's reply brief, has your call logs. And on that document, there are 2 documented conversations for December 15th. In your oral testimony, you referenced 3 calls. And so I'm just asking, do you have an explanation for why you had 3 calls, but only 2 are reflected in the call log?
And it's just a mistake in our call log. The third one was a general callback to confirm the established strategy from the second call. Was an oversight submitted from our exhibit D, exhibit 4. Sorry.
Thank you. That's it from FTB.
Okay, thank you. I'd like to turn now to my panel members to see if they have any questions. Judge Vasig, do you have any questions for appellant?
I do not have any questions at this time. Thank you.
Thank you. And Judge Hosey, do you have any questions?
No questions from me either. Thank you for your presentation.
I actually do have one question, and I believe, Mr. Hill, you may have mentioned that there were web page payment issues. Was it your testimony that you experienced web page payment issues?
No, it was just general circumstances around the December payments that we were trying to make. I don't believe the taxpayer experienced any, but the FTE was having them.
So you did not attempt to make this web payment?
Correct.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. We can now turn to FTB's presentation. Mr. Tuttle, you have 10 minutes and may begin when you are ready. The time is now 1:21.
Thank you. Good afternoon. My name is Topher Tuttle, and I am representing respondent, the Franchise Tax Board. With me is Alyssa Pinarbasi, also representing respondent. At issue is whether appellant has demonstrated reasonable cause to abate the mandatory e-pay penalty. In this case, appellant filed a timely tax return for tax year 2020 shortly before the extended due date. On the tax return, appellant reported an overpayment of about $45 million, which he indicated should be refunded to him. Notably, the line where appellant could indicate how much of the overpaid tax should be applied to his 2021 estimated tax was blank. FTB issued the refund on October 21, 2021. Subsequently, appellant remitted an estimate tax payment of $22 million by check. Accompanying the check was a letter describing appellant's desire to apply some of the refund it received from tax year 2020 as an estimated tax payment for tax year 2021. After imposing the e-pay penalty because appellant had made a payment by paper check, appellant filed an imperfect claim for refund on July 25, 2022. This claim was later perfected when appellant made payment of about $225,000 on October 12, 2022, and this appeal followed respondent's denial of that claim. Appellant argues that reasonable cause exists to abate the e-pay penalty because he wanted to return a portion of the refund he was issued for tax year 2020 so that it could be applied as an estimated tax payment for tax year 2021. Appellant contends that because the refund for tax year 2020 was issued electronically, he was unable to effectively return the payment as he would have been able to do with a paper check. Under California law, taxpayers are required to make electronic payments when either their estimated tax or extension payment exceeds $20,000 or their tax return has a total tax liability greater than $80,000. Once the e-pay requirement is triggered, the law requires taxpayers to make all their future payments electronically. In this case, appellant was required to make electronic payments as of June 2009. Taxpayers who are required to make electronic payments but fail to do so are subject to a mandatory e-pay penalty. When appellant submitted a payment of $22 million by check on December 27th, 2021, respondent properly imposed a mandatory e-pay penalty of $220,000. When FTB imposes a penalty, the law presumes that the penalty was imposed correctly. The taxpayer bears the burden of proving reasonable cause to abate the mandatory e-pay penalty. And to establish reasonable cause, the taxpayer must show that the failure to pay electronically occurred despite the exercise of ordinary business care and prudence. In this case, appellant asserts that upon receipt of his refund for tax year 2020, he determined he would have rather applied a portion of the refund as an estimate tax payment for tax year 2021. Although there is a method to accomplish this on a timely filed tax return, appellant did not elect to apply a portion of his overpayment as an estimate tax payment for tax year 2021. As admitted by appellant, FTB not have a procedure to allow an issued refund to be returned as an estimated tax payment for the subsequent tax year. Here, remitting payment by check, along with a letter explaining that the check should be treated as a partial return of its tax year 2020 refund, such that it could be applied as an estimate tax payment for tax year 2021, is not reasonable. Appellant's convoluted attempt to return a portion of its refund for tax year 2020 does not excuse his decision to make payment by check rather than by electronic funds transfer as required by California law. This is particularly true where appellant had full knowledge that he was required to remit all payments electronically. And turning to the call logs, FTB has provided some of the call logs of the taxpayers' conversations in December of 2021 and January and March of 2022. FTB does not have a corresponding call log for each of the calls indicated in appellant's exhibit 4. And none of appellant's call logs include comments describing the advice that appellants claim to have received. So appellant's call logs do not indicate that FTB provided the guidance by telephone that appellants have described in their testimony or in their briefing. Therefore, respondent respectfully requests that its action denying appellant's claim for refund be sustained. I'm happy to answer any questions the panel may have. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Tuttle. With that, I would like to ask the panel if they have any questions. Judge Vasig, do you have any questions?
I do not have any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Judge Hosey, do you have any questions at this time?
No questions at this time. Thank you for your presentation.
Okay, I do not have any questions either. So at this time, we will go ahead and let appellant have their closing remarks for 5 minutes, and you can begin whenever you are ready.
This is David Adams. I will begin. I assert, and we maintain, that the client, the taxpayer, did use reasonable care and prudent business care in deciding to do what take the actions that they took here. They basically, we called the FTB numerous times. Whether our call logs that we have basically maintain what was said in the calls that we had with the FTB in shorter form, because they were not recordings of the calls, but they were basically a quick summary of what the call was that we had at the time. But we did call the FTB numerous times to get their advice on how we should handle this, and we acted based on that. And the client, and also I maintain that the client was relying on their tax preparer's advice to take care of this, that the client maintained took reasonable care in making sure they did this correctly. Also, the fact that they have never had a problem with it, they have never had a penalty or had a time when they didn't follow the rules for an electronic payment, except in this case, because there was no clear way to accomplish what they wanted to accomplish other than doing it by a paper check. Otherwise, we would have made the payment electronically. There was, and the problem that, the issue with the FTB webpage site, while we didn't experience that, was there was issues with making PTE payments back during that point. And all of this came up, the reason we were doing this and the reason we did not, at the time we filed the return, elect to apply any of the overpayment to the following year's estimated taxes was at the time when we filed the return, there was confusion with with how the FTB was going to treat PTE payments, and then and whether or not there would be any limit on what you could use of any PTET payments. Later, when we decided we needed to come in and apply some of this, we didn't know it at the time. We timely filed the return, but at the time we came back and and decided we need to apply some of this payment, that's when the FTB came out and said there would be a limitation on business credits of $5 million. And that was going to lower we were concerned at the time that $5 million limitation of being able to use the PTET credit would cause us to have an underpayment. At the time we filed the return, we did not know, and it had been not stated that there was going to be that the PTE payment was going to be limited. So we later tried to rectify that. In the end, it didn't matter because we had enough paid in regardless to cover us for any penalties, but we did not know that at the time and wanted to make this payment. Again, the FTB the state of California nor the FTB was harmed because we didn't avoid any penalties, any underpayment penalties by doing this. It was basically a one-time check that we did based on FTB agents' advice of how we should handle it. And I just don't see how we've harmed anybody in doing this for this one time. And I think the taxpayer did exercise reasonable cause. That's it.
Well, okay. Thank you for your comments, Mr. Adams. I'm sorry, Mr. Hill, were you going to add anything?
Yeah, I just want to clarify. So the estimated payment, I think, is a little, it's not specific enough in like what we were trying to accomplish. So it's clear like a credit carry forward from the 2020 return is applied, as of the beginning of the estimated payments. So like as of the beginning of 2021 with that first payment. So returning the refund and getting it that earlier date was the goal. And obviously can't be done otherwise. As it stands currently, the estimated payment is just applied in the FTB system as an estimate of, I think, the fourth quarter, as of December. So like even that hasn't been put where you want it to have been. And even with that, there's no underpayment penalty or issues on the taxpayer side. So like really no benefit from this. Just to quickly address the FTB's evidence, Exhibit L, the second and third pages of their call log are all after e-pay penalty was assessed. They're sort of that multiple times their agents have denied the advice that we received, but only have produced the one call log from our initial call. The other calls that we have from them obviously have other guidance as we're asserting.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Hill. I'm going to look to my panel one more time and make sure that they have all of their questions answered. Judge Vasig, do you have any final questions?
I do not. Thank you.
Thank you. Judge Hosey, do you have any final questions?
No questions from me. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And I also have no questions for either party at this time. So with that, we are ready to conclude the hearing today. This case is submitted on August 21st, 2025, and the record is now closed. I want to thank the parties for their well-rehearsed or well-presented, good presentations today. It was very thorough. The panel will meet and decide the case based on the arguments and the evidence in the record. We will issue a written opinion within 100 days from today. This concludes the hearing for the appeal of G. Haas. Thank you, everyone. And OTA is in recess, and the next appeal